self-confidence issues is like you're afraid of something.
Yeah.
You're very sensitive to something. But when you're able, when you see that you're able to face the dragon, so to say, at least in bits, a little bit more all the time, you start realizing that the dragon is really small. I don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
And then the confidence comes. But you have to kind of expose yourself to the discomfort in whatever field you're in.
Yeah.
And to have enough faith in yourself that you can bring results. Sometimes it means that you have to ask for help. Because you have no clue what to do. Someone else shows you and realize, oh, it's not that hard. And then you realize you can do it, and that gives you confidence.
Okay, I do have a question.
Okay.
So, how can you get more self-confident? What would you say is the biggest thing you can do to boost your own self-confidence?
That's a really good question. What are you doing right now yourself to do that?
Sports.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like doing something, becoming good at something.
Yeah.
Like that makes you self-confident when you're good at something. For me, sports is something important. Being fit and looking good. That makes me self-confident.
Yeah.
I was like, if you have anything else, because there's a ton of ways you can.
There are a ton of ways. Obviously, I don't know everything, but it's like I feel like when it comes to people, they have like specific needs for being self-confident because you can be physically self-confident, like you look good, like people give you good feedback and stuff like that. But then there's like you put into a different situation. Let's say you're really good at sports, are horrible at math, and you put into a math class, and you got all these people who are really good at math. All of a sudden, you don't feel very confident about yourself in that setting. But I like how typically self-confidence comes from this ability to withstand trouble or like withstand stress. Like when you put yourself into little uncomfortable situations, when you find yourself overcoming that situation, you realize, you know what, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
It's not as scary as I think. And all of a sudden you realize the dragon that you're facing with, self-confidence issues is like you're afraid of something.
Yeah.
You're very sensitive to something. But when you're able, when you see that you're able to face the dragon, so to say, at least in bits, a little bit more all the time, you start realizing that the dragon is really small. I don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
And then the confidence comes. But you have to kind of expose yourself to the discomfort in whatever field you're in.
Yeah.
And to have enough faith in yourself that you can bring results. Sometimes it means that you have to ask for help. Because you have no clue what to do. Someone else shows you and realize, oh, it's not that hard. And then you realize you can do it, and that gives you confidence. So that would be like a very general idea of how to gain confidence.
True. Okay. Just go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and you don't have to go and like when the dragon's big, you don't have to go slay it that way. Just put it into pieces. Like, what's something you can handle, rather than I have to tackle this whole big thing right away.
Yeah.
And that's not realistic. Typically, when we try to tackle too big of a piece, we fail, and then we get more cowardice and we're like, oh, it's too big, I can't handle this. Like, no, put it in pieces. Beat the lizards first, and then go for the bigger dragons, right?
Yeah, of course. Okay. So
as we had a conversation outside the camera, when the cameras were not filming, like we talked about how sometimes being self-confident with the opposite sex, there's a lot of aspects to it. Like what does it mean? Do you want to be confident in just being around the opposite sex, or talking to them, or like maybe talking to them in a romantic sense, like, or flirting, or maybe being more physically close or something like that? Because there's all these different aspects. What would you say? Like, do you have a specific thing you want to dive into, or?
Yeah, I think what I'm most thinking is like, how do you feel confident that the other person actually enjoys being around you? If you know that you don't think like, oh, maybe I'm a boring person. Like, you have all these doubts. Yeah. Even though if it's not true, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the leg when you have those doubts. You think, oh, I'm not funny. And then automatically kind of make yourself like less funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's usually like a problem when we try to do things and we have a negative belief about ourselves. I think when we do have those kind of beliefs, it's really important that we do like some healthy questioning about that. So, for example, if you feel like you're with someone on a date, for example, and you feel like the other person's not very excited or they're bored. Now, we don't always understand, like, even if they were, we don't understand why. It could be that they're just having a bad day. There's all these infinite explanations, but because there's an empty space in our heads of not having an explanation, our brain typically wants to give it an explanation, but it's based on our feelings.
Yeah.
And then if we start believing that, that's gonna alter our decisions and our actions, which are gonna affect the situation even further, and it causes confusion, probably for you and for the other person. So I think when you do feel those kind of things, it's really important that you question those feelings a little bit. Like, so what am I basing this idea on?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling that the other person's having a bad time? Is it because I just feel it, or did they say something? Did they tell me? And like, you're like, well, wow. But I mean, I think the best thing to find out is typically just ask.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, find the right situation, because that might kill the vibe if there's actually a good vibe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But maybe after the date, you can get some feedback. It's like, hey, could you give us some honest feedback? Like, did you find this boring? And you can be totally honest with me.
Yeah.
And then you know. But you don't want to make those assumptions just because you feel something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those feelings can be correct, but you still want to have some information and data behind that to like actually get assurance that, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And if it is the case that the other person's bored, then you can always seek for understanding of what could I do differently? Why were you bored? What is it that was lacking? And so forth. So it's just gathering information for yourself. And when you know more, you're able to do more.
Yeah.
So that would be, I think, like one of the first steps of figuring out. Because the confidence comes with the action of being uncomfortable. But it's really important that you at least know what you're doing, at least have an idea of like what are you trying to do and why are things happening and stuff like that. Or are things even happening the way you think?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's super interesting what you said about how the brain always wants to have an explanation when there isn't one. You know, like ignorance is not always bliss. Inside, like you're like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good,
Especially when you have an agenda or something, you want something, and but you're not getting it, and you don't know how you're supposed to get it, and there's all this uncertainty.
Yeah.
The stress kind of like causes like you want to get it, like the brain does this because it wants to get out of this state of discomfort. It wants to get into a balanced state where it's comfortable, where it's nice, where nothing's wrong. So that's why it does it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you.
Yeah, no problem,
for the
man.
advice.
Yeah. Rolle. Thank you.